Hey y'all. So today's objective is solving a system of equations by elimination. We've gone over graphing, we've gone over substitution, so now I want to teach you how to do elimination. You can add or subtract when two coefficients are when two coefficients are the same. The coefficient is the number in front of the variable. So the number in front of the x's or the number in front of the y's. If the two coefficients are the same, then you can either add or subtract them. Sometimes you might have to multiply one equation or both of the equations to get two coefficients are the same. And I'm going to show you all of these examples in a moment. Just a reminder, if you're solving a system of equations, you'll have one solution where the lines intersect. You might have no solution if you have parallel lines because they never intersect. Or you have infinitely many solutions if the lines are the same and they're graphed right on top of each other, and so it's intersecting infinitely amount of times. Okay, so example 1, A and B, copy these down. We're going to solve, and I'm going to show you how to add these two equations together. When you see system of equations, and you notice that the coefficients are the same number but opposites, meaning you have one positive and one negative. So this is when the coefficients are opposites of each other. Same number, but one is positive, one is negative. Then you want to add them. So you can see we have a -4 and a +4. So we are going to add these equations. And what's going to happen, the reason this is called elimination is because when I add these equations, one of my variables is going to be eliminated. So let me show you. When you add together -4x plus 4x, that is 0. So the x's now are eliminated. I'm going to add together -2 plus 8, which is 6y, and -12 plus -24, so that's -36. Then I have a simple equation, so I'm going to divide both sides by 6, and y equals -6. So I have eliminated my x values, and I solve for my y. I have y equals -6. That's half of my solution. Now I need to pick one of the equations and I plug it back in. It doesn't matter which equation you pick, you just need to pick one of the equations. I'm just going to pick the top one. So -4x minus 2, and instead of y, I'm going to put -6 equals -12. So now I need to solve this equation. -2 times -6 is a +12. Then I subtract 12 on both sides, and I get -4x equals -24. Divide both sides by -4, and x equals 6. Now I have an x value and a y value, so I can write my solution as an ordered pair. So the solution is 6, -6. Okay? That is the solution to the system of equations. And remember, I just showed you how to use elimination. Example B. My coefficients. I'm looking at the coefficients. So I have a -4 and -5, so that doesn't really eliminate. But I have a +1 and a -1 right here. So I can add these equations together because I just said if I have the coefficients are opposites. So I have a +1 and a -1. I need to add these together. So I'm going to add together -4x plus -5x. So that's -9x's. And then these eliminate. And this equals 27. -9 times x equals 27. We divide both sides by -9. And x equals -3. I have the x value. Now I need to find the y value. So I'm going to plug it back into my equation. And it doesn't matter which equation you use. I'm going to just use the top one. -4 times x. So x is -3 plus y equals 6. -4 times -3 is 12. 12 plus what equals 6? So I would subtract 12 on both sides, and y equals -6. Now I have an x value and a y value, so my solution is -3, -6. And this was solving by elimination adding, and the reason you add is because you see that one coefficient is positive and one is negative. Positive, negative. Copy these down. Now we are going to solve by subtraction. The reason you would use subtraction is if your coefficients are the same, meaning one is positive and the other one is positive, or they're both negative. If your coefficients are exactly the same, then you can subtract the equations together. So let me show you what I mean. Over here I have a 7 and a negative 8. That doesn't really help me, but I have a 2y and a 2y. So to solve this, I'm going to subtract the equations together. So make sure you listen carefully. 7x minus negative 8x is going to give me 15 because minus a negative. 2y minus 2y is 0. And 24 minus 30 is 6. Something just doesn't look right, but my paper's right over there. So we'll keep going. I need to divide by sides by 15, and x equals 0.4. Okay, 0.4. And I subtracted the equation. The other examples, I was adding them. So you see I did 7 minus negative 8, 2 minus 2, 24 minus 30. I have a value for x, so I need to plug it back in. I'm going to use, it doesn't matter, I'm just going to use the top equation. 7 times 0.4 plus 2y equals 24. 7 times 0.4 is 2.8 plus 2y equals 24. You have to subtract 2.8 from both sides. And then we get 2y equals 21.2. Divide by 2, and 10.6 is your y value. So that means our solution to this system is 0.4 and 10.6. And again, I subtracted the equations together. Look at example B. I have negative 7x and a positive 1, and I have a negative 2 and a negative 2. So when you have the same exact coefficients, both are negative, then we are going to subtract the equations. Negative 7 minus 1 is negative 8x, and negative 2 minus negative 2 is going to be 0, and this is going to equal negative 13 minus 11 is negative 24. We have to divide both sides by negative 8, and x equals 3. So I have found my x value. Once you find your x value, you plug it back in, and I'm going to use the top equation. Negative 7 times 3 minus 2y equals negative 13. Negative 7 times 3 is negative 21 minus 2y equals negative 13. We're going to add 21 to both sides. And I get negative 2y equals 8, I think. Negative 13 plus 21. Divide both sides by negative 2, and y equals negative 4. So I have an x value, I have a y value, so my final answer is 3, negative 4. And I used solving a system of equations by elimination, and I've just shown you how to subtract the equations. Okay, so the last examples I'm going to show you are how to multiply your equations first. We need to multiply sometimes your equations if your coefficients aren't the same. All the examples I've shown you, your coefficients have been the same. But in this example, we have a 5 and a 10 and a 1 and a negative 7. We don't have any coefficients that are the same, so we need to multiply the equations. And I'm going to show you that you can actually do it several ways. I'm going to show you both ways. One of the options is to multiply the top equation by 2. If I multiply that whole top equation by 2, it's going to make both of those 10. So I'm going to show you. If I multiply this by 2, I would get 10x plus 2y equals 18. So I multiplied this by 2, and this by 2. This one already has a 10x. So I don't want to change that one. I just want to recopy that one down. 10x minus 7y equals negative 18. Since these are the same coefficients right here, 10x and 10x, that means I need to subtract them. 10x minus 10x is 0. 2 minus negative 7 is 9y. 9y. And 18 minus negative 18 is 36. You would divide both sides by 9 and y equals 4. Okay, so I multiplied that top equation by 2 and I got y equals 4. Then you would plug it back in to get an x value. Let's just plug it into the top one. 10x plus 2 times 4 equals 18. And 10x plus 8 equals 18. And x equals 1. So I know my answer is 1, 4. But that's not the only way you could do it. You could also multiply the top by 7. Do you see how this is a 7 and this is a 1? So you could multiply to get the y's the same. So if I multiplied this whole top equation by 7, then 5 times 7 would be, I'm going to change markers. 5 times 7 is 35x. 1 times 7 would be 7y. And 9 times 7 would be 63. Then my bottom equation I'm not changing, so I would just recopy that down. And then hopefully you see that these are opposites. I have a positive 7 and a negative 7. And remember, if you have the opposites, you can add your equations. So these are going to cancel. I have 35x plus 10x is 45x. 63 plus negative 18 is 45, and x equals 1. And that's right, because over here we got x equals 1, x equals 1. It doesn't matter which way you do it, you still can get the right answer. I multiplied this one by 2 to get 10, or I multiplied this one by 7 to get a 7. So the answer is x equals 1 and y equals 4, and then that is the solution to the system of equations. So I'm just saying, and you don't necessarily have to multiply the top equation only. You can multiply the bottom too. Okay? So here we go. Negative 5x plus y and 3x minus 8. Just drop it on. So in this one, I see that I could get right here, if I multiplied this equation by 8, then I would have, both of those would be an 8. So I'm going to multiply this entire equation by 8, and I get negative 40x plus 8y equals negative 24. Then I copy down the equation below it so I can see. And then you would solve. Because there's one positive and one negative, then we would add these two equations. When I add those two equations, then I would solve for x equals, and then you would substitute back in. But I'm not going to go through all the steps right now because of the time. Example C. I have a 4x minus 3y, and I have a 3x minus 5y. Now this one is a little tricky because we can't just multiply one equation easily, so we might have to multiply both equations. And you can honestly pick which variable you want to focus on. I'm going to focus on the x's. What can I multiply these two equations by to end up getting the same number? So you have to think of a multiple of 4 and a multiple of 3. And a multiple of 4 and a multiple of 3 would be 12. So our goal is to get to a 12. That means I need to multiply this equation by 3, because 4 times 3 is 12. Now I need to multiply this equation by 4, because 3 times 4 is 12. So I'm going to multiply the top one by 12, and by 3. 12x minus 9y equals 33. I'm going to multiply the second equation by 4. 12x minus 20y equals 44. Once I've done that, now I see that these have the same coefficient. So if they have the same coefficient, I'm going to subtract the equations, and then my...
Miss Cantwell?
Yes?
Is Amaya Lane in there?
No, ma'am?
Okay, thank you.
So my x's are going to eliminate, and then I can solve. So you have a u try down here. Negative 2x plus 6y, negative 7x plus 8y. You can focus on the x's or you can focus on the y's. But remember, you have to find a number that both of them will go into. Just like I did here, they both went into 12. So you have to find a number that they both will go into. You multiply the equations and then you eliminate. We'll go over this in class.